soon as her mother, Coral Jones, realized her daughter was missing, she immediately called the police and began a frantic search. Police also launched a huge manhunt, and a massive media appeal followed, with April's parents begging for their daughter to return. This turned April's body was never found, and Bridger would never admit what he had done to her. The police found in his home 17 pieces of bone in the ashes of his wood burner. They found another fragment of bone in the plug hole of his bath. Although they weren't able to extract any DNA, it was suggested that these fragments came from the skull of a child. Bridger had tried to clean up after the murder, but blood had seeped through the carpet, and April's blood was found in front of the wood burner. On his computers, he had some adult images of hardcore pornography with some very young girls being sexually abused by adults. He had a collection of pictures showing corpses of children and pictures of notorious murder cases. In his video player there was a tape paused at the point of a rape and a murder scene from the film The Last House on the Left. He had recorded that same scene twice and nothing else on the tape. A scientist said there was a possibility that they had found April's DNA on a sample taken from the inside crotch area of his tracksuit. After arrest, DNA was found on his penis. He said it could have got there when he was having a wee while carrying April. In court, Bridger said that April had never come to his house. On his laptop computer, he also had a lot of images, pictures of some of his friends' children, teenagers, including photos of April's sister who was 16 and some photos of April herself. On the evening he abducted April at 5 sentence for the abduction and murder of April Jones, ordering that he never be released outside the court. April's mother, Coral, said, "April will be forever in our hearts, and we are so moved by the